This week on the True Geordie Podcast, it's the world's strongest man and first person ever to deadlift 500 kilograms, Eddie Hall. Just 24 hours after his arch rival, the Mountain Thor, pulled 501 kilograms in a controversial claim for a world record. And now the two giants have announced that they will settle this once and for all in the ring.
I personally think this shouldn't be classed as a world record. Everyone can now set world records at the home gym and record it. And where do you draw the line? I witnessed Thor's dad weighing the plates. We all know how easy it is to sort of rig these things up. Now, I'm not saying that happened, but what I am saying is the speculation is there.
This rivalry between you two, it's becoming the biggest thing ever to happen to strongman.
He's been around my house. You know, we've had parties at my house in the past. I used to really like Thor. We were great friends. He became a bit of a monster. Everything had to be his way. He accused me of being a cheat at World's Strongest Man 2017, and he threw all these accusations out there that the referees were corrupt, the events were changed in my favour, so much bullshit that Thor came out with and put this black cloud around my World's Strongest Man win. I trained my whole life for this one moment, and this guy tried to take it away from me because he couldn't take being beat by a better man.
The loser doesn't get a silver medal and stands a little bit below each other on a podium. He's on the floor potentially, and I think with how big you guys are, it stands to reason that one of you is getting chinned.
Where I'm from, we don't deal with things with words. You know, straight away, it's fists up. Let's sort this out like men. And that's how I've been brought up. I'm going to leave no stone unturned. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I go in that ring and fucking ridicule this prick. If I'm confident in my head, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you, then you should fucking run. Forget the deadlift, forget our feud. You called me a cheat, and I'm going to correct that by knocking you the fuck out.
This week on the True Geordie Podcast is one of the strongest human beings ever. Former World's Strongest Man 2017, Eddie Hall. How are you doing, mate?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing good, Brian. How about you, mate?
I'm fucking spot on, mate. I'm delighted to have you on because you are currently one of the most talked about people in the world. Again, your old Thor just pulled 501 and told the world the massive news that I knew before most people, that you and him are getting in the ring. This is insane, mate.
Yeah, big deal.
Let's just take apart this 501 for a start, because the whole world is calling this a new world record. It's all over Twitter, the mountain's trending, and there is, amongst the experts, a bit of debate about this as whether or not this is a world record. You hold the world record. What do you think?
Well, firstly, I want to say well done to Thor for pulling 501 kilo, regardless of where it was done and how it was done. I know what that takes. So from me to you, Thor, I just want to say well done, regardless of any of the bad negativity around the situation.
Sorry to interrupt you. How did it feel watching that goal? Because it was impressive.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, I watched it and I did the 465 and I was like, I actually did a comparison video very quickly of my 465 compared to his. And mine was a little bit faster. And then as soon as you pulled the 501, I did another comparison video, and mine was a little bit faster. So I guess it was just like a little bit of self-satisfaction for myself, really. But yeah, a hell of a lift. You know, you can't deny that. Thor is a monster. He's 6'9". He's a genetic freak. You know, he's destined to pull these kind of weights. You can never take that away from a guy like that.
I respect that, mate. But like I said earlier, there's so much debate going on in the strongman world about the legitimacy, because for those who don't know, these world records are usually done in competition. Now, I take the point that Thor can't be in competition right now, but he's had 4 years since you did that world record where he hasn't done it in a competition, and now when it's impossible, he's done it in his own gym, and people are calling it a gym lift. Can you kind of break down where you see this as a difference between yours and his, potentially, if you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, Thor was planned. I mean, to be fair to Thor, he did plan to pull the 501 kilo in Bahrain. I believe it was in April, the middle of April. And I had no qualms with that. You know, I was happy. I was actually going to attend and actually commentate that competition, and I didn't have a word to say about it. And then Thor announced that he was doing this 501 kilo deadlift, you know, in his home gym, which automatically just sparked a big question mark for me. You know, and I always look at other sports as well. You know, you look at the Olympics, you look at all the Olympians training, and you know, obviously the Olympics is cancelled. And do you see Usain Bolt or Usain Bolt's second man doing runs on his track and getting his mate to referee it and saying it's a world record? Or do you, for instance, there was a person who ran a marathon in under 2 hours and it got loads of sort of, as you say, it went trending, it went nuts. But nobody said world record because it wasn't done in a proper marathon. And I believe this is the same circumstances. If you want to break a world record, then you've got to do it in a competition. Now, there are different kinds of world records. There are of course, I've done many world records in loads of circumstances, but I would class these as almost circus acts. I've done deadlift. I did a deadlift in a book store once and I lifted books, but and everyone's sort of bringing that up. But I will happily say, if you want to diminish that world record and say it's BS, I'd be happy for that world record to go back to Tom McGee, who pulled it back in World's Strongest Man back in whenever. But where do you draw the line there? Because I lifted 536 kilo of books. Now, as far as I'm aware, you cannot get calibrated books, and it's an 18-inch deadlift. It's a circus act. It's a deformed lift from the 500 from the normal deadlift. And as far as I'm aware, when Tom McGee did the world record silver dollar deadlift in the World's Strongest Man, you can't get calibrated cheese as well. So, he lifted cheese blocks. So there are some things that can be done outside competition, and there's some things that can't. And another example would be, Lawrence Shalai has done Farmer's Walk world records on Guinness Book of World Records. Firstly, let's just be very clear here. Guinness Book of World Records do not sanction any world records. All they do is report on them. So, and Guinness Book of World Records is a business that makes money off showcasing these ridiculous things. They say how many body piercings do people have and stuff like that, and how far can a cowboy spit. So to say because it's a Guinness Book of World Records recognise it doesn't make it legit. And even by Lawrence's farmer's walk or his car walk, even every farmer's walk's different, every car walk's different. But my main argument is here: a calibrated bar and calibrated plate and the settings it is done in a competition, that cannot be a circus act. It just can't be. We spent years and years and years finding a happy place between strongmen, powerlifters, bodybuilders, crossfitters, where we could all come together under one competition, the World Deadlift Champs, and have it out. And everybody accepted it. All the powerlifters, Andy Bolton, the first man to pull 1,000 pounds, Benny Magnuson, the current world record holder in the deadlift at the time, they all came to the World Deadlift Champs, and we all agreed this was the international way to sort of battle it out for who can deadlift the most. And I'm afraid this coronavirus is no excuse to change the international way of how a deadlift should be recorded.
Does that mean, Eddie, if I go in and I eat me Weetabix and I say me prayers and I deadlift 550 next week, as unlikely as it might be, am I now the world record holder? I mean, it seems that way.
But that's as funny as that may sound, Brian, that's where the world could go now. You're going to get thousands and thousands of people doing world records on camera with the mum and dads saying the down signal, and basically it's open Pandora's box. If everyone accepts this world record, everyone can now set world records at the home gym and record it. And who's to detest it? Like, seriously, where do you draw the line? This is the big problem. We don't know what the reaction is yet. I personally think this shouldn't be classed as a world record. And I think the majority, let's cut out the 16-year-old fangirls that watch Game of Thrones that are just gobbling Thor off. Let's cut those people out. Let's stick with authority, people in the strongman world. The majority don't recognise this as a world record. And for me, if it's got a big cloud over it, if it's got like the slightest bit of negativity, I wouldn't do it. I would make sure it was 100%.
I did see your friend and former World's Strongest Man winner, Brian Shaw, have a similar opinion. We all respect him, I think, and he said, that's the problem. This just is a never-ending opening of people who can just claim whatever now because it was on a live stream. Why is it taking them 4 years to break the record then? Why is it just happening now? That's my main question as someone who doesn't have the knowledge you do.
Yeah, Thor has said, since I broke the 500 kilo, Thor has come out many times and said he can pull 500 kilo, and he has attempted 501 kilo before as well, and he has failed before in a competition. And as you say, he's had 4 years to get this done, and it just doesn't feel right that all of a sudden there are no competitions and it's got to be done. I understand that people peak in training and whatever else, but this coronavirus, the America's already sort of breaking out of this. Competitions are going to start happening pretty soon, and I just don't think there's any excuse for it to be done in a home gym. I mean, let me put this way, Brad. I mean, we've just watched Thor pull 501 in his home gym. Now, I just want to point out one thing, and people can speculate all they want. There's a million things you can speculate, but I witnessed Thor's dad weighing the plates for this attempt. Now, and you know what I mean? I mean, I think he was being watched over, and it was calibrated, weights and whatever, and the scale was calibrated apparently, but we all know how easy it is to sort of rig these things up. Now, I'm not saying that happened. I am not saying that happened. But what I am saying is the speculation is there. And there should be zero speculation around a world record. Absolutely zero. Now, let's rewind to 2016 when I pulled 500 kilo. If my dad had weighed those plates, regardless if they're calibrated, regardless if the scale's calibrated, regardless if he's being watched, if my dad weighed those plates that I used on that 500 kilo, would you accept that?
Exactly. Just to spin it round and turn it on you, because I have seen a few people saying, well, what about Eddie's lift? What about what happened with his deadlift? He apparently had his own bar, his own kit. What do you say to that? Because there's a lot of people saying things like that now. I think Thor's fans are coming after you now.
Yeah. So what? I'm using my own bar and kit.
That's what I've seen a few people say, and that the whole day was around you, and that basically allowances were made, and it was all about you, and you had your own bar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can answer that. That's not a problem. I mean, the bar was the same bar that Darren had. The reason I had the bar in advance. And it wasn't the actual bar I used on the day. Darren Sadler brought 2 bars, and I can't remember how exactly it happened, but I believe we were building up to this contest, and there was a Ohio Oki bar or something like it. It was a Ronnie Crane or something like that Oki bar deadlift being used. Andy Bolton had used this bar for his deadlift attempt. I'd heard in the past. So had Benny Magnuson. So I got one of these bars. I acquired one of these bars because I knew it was going to be used on the day. And I trained on the same bar that was used on the day. I'm not going to deny that. But the bar that was used on the day was then swapped. I took the bar home that was used on the day, and Darren kept the one that was used in the gym. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Benny Magnuson trained on that same bar because he trained in Darren Sadler's gym. Darren Sadler, just to bring you up to date, was the promoter, the guy who held this event. He got all the equipment. And I think in 2015, when I pulled the world record 463, I believe, just from memory, I believe that the last lift, I had to ask for a wooden platform to be put down because the platform was just so badly damaged and the mats were wrong. So the mats were lined the wrong way. So basically, these Alico plates are so solid and sort of crisp. If you've got a ridge in the mats, it doesn't roll very well. So I said we had to put this board down in 2015 for me to get the bar to roll and do the deadlift attempt. And then in 2016, I remember it was about 2 weeks before the show, I rung Darren up and I said, are you using the same platform? He says, yeah. I said, okay, would you mind if I brought 2 of my own mats just to put down, just so the deadlift rolls nice, because I don't want these horrible ridges in the platform that he had last year. And he said, yeah, no problem. And all it was 2 rubber mats. And you can go and look back on my training footage. When I was training in the gym, I trained on the floor. I didn't even have a platform. And all I did was put 2 rubber mats down on the floor. And that's what I deadlifted off. And that's what I had delivered on the day to make sure the deadlift was rollable. Because you've got to envision if these lines were stopping the deadlift from rolling and it's affecting people's deadlifting, we want the best chance to people to give the best weights. So those are the only 2 things I can think of. Is I did use the same bar that was used on the day. Because Darren Sadler had the same bar, and I took mats with me that sort of on top of the platform, and that's about all I can say. They were his plates, so they were Alico competition plates. They were his collars, and obviously the platform itself was his. You know, everything, all the underboard and everything, all the surrounding and the knitting in and how it was made, that was all his. So there's nothing really there that can be sort of give me an advantage as such.
This rivalry between you two, it's becoming the biggest thing ever to happen to strongman. I think that's fair. You are a celebrity in your own right, and so is he from this Game of Thrones thing, as well as having all the credentials physically. You're now taking this to the next level. We've got World's Strongest Man 2017, World's Strongest Man 2018, getting in a ring and fighting each other. You know, just to put this into perspective for the people who don't understand, you know, people talked about Andy Ruiz being a big guy in there. Andy Ruiz was 280 pounds in his last fight. Thor is 450.
Yeah.
Fuck me. This is crazy. What made you think, yeah, I want to fight him? What does this all stem from?
Well, I mean, as you just say, you know, by no means is Thor a small man. You know, he's 6'9", he's 450 pounds, which, you know, is over 205 kilo, I believe. He's a giant of a man. He's an absolute giant of a man. Given the choice, I would never want to fight Thor. It'd be a stupid life choice for anyone on the planet to fight a man that size. But
why are you doing it then?
Yeah, well, this is more personal. You know, it's not about the contract. It's not about the money offer. It's not about this stupid deadlift feud that we've got going on. I think it's the fact that he accused me of being a cheat at World's Strongest Man 2017. And he threw all these accusations out there that the referees were corrupt, that the events were changed in my favour, that I knew the events in advance, that the events were being changed during the contest for my favour. There was just so much bullshit that Thor came out with and put this black cloud around my World's Strongest Man win. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. I thought, you know, so what? I've got the trophy. It doesn't matter what he says. But ever since I've won my win, and especially straight after I won, every interview I did it wasn't about my win. It was about this controversy. It was, you know, it wasn't like, well done for your win. It was straight into it. Like, Thor says he was robbed. Thor says you've won this illegitimately. And it's like, you know, I've just won the World's Strongest Man, and every single interview and TV interview I did was based around defending myself. And it hurt me. It genuinely hurt me deep down. It was like, I trained my whole life for this one moment, and this guy just took it away, or tried to take it away from me, because he couldn't take being beat by a better man. And that's why I want to fight him, because he put a black cloud over my career and has done ever since. And I feel as though, for me, I'm never going to get an apology from Thor, I know that. And he's never going to admit that I beat him fair and square. But for me, this is my way of putting this to bed. I feel like if I can rip this guy's head off in a boxing ring, then as soon as he said that, as soon as this contract landed on my table, I was like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. This is my opportunity to get one back on Thor. And like he did to me, is to belittle him and for the whole world to see, make him look an idiot, because he tried to do that to me.
It's funny because even when you go back and watch the Netflix documentary done on you, even back then, which was like 5 years ago, they highlight Thor as your number one rival in age, in ability, and everything. Yeah. I'm assuming this has been going on a while now. Can you take me back to when you first met Thor and what that was like, and how the relationship has gone from that moment almost?
Yeah, I mean, I first met Thor back in 2012, I believe, my very first World's Strongest Man, and we've competed against each other numerous times, and we've hung out together. You know, we've been out for meals. He's been around my house. You know, we've had parties at my house in the past. I used to really like Thor. We were great friends. He used to be a great guy, and I think there's a lot of people that can back that up. But I feel as though, I don't know what's changed about Thor, but he became this person that, he became a bit of a monster of like, everything had to be his way. And I think that really started at World's Strongest Man 2017 with all the, you know, the sort of bad negativity around that. But I think honestly, like up until that point, me and Thor were fine. We were completely fine. We got on, we talked, we respected each other. I think there's always been that natural rivalry there. There's always been that natural competitiveness. You know, we get on, but I think deep down we're like, you know, you'd sit and have a meal, or, you know, share a bus ride before. You'd get on with him, but afterwards you'd be like, you know, you are my competitor. You know, I want to beat you. So there's always been that rivalry there, but there's always been respect. And I suppose that all changed in 2017 when he called me out for trying to cheat the world's strongest man with his words. And then it's just gone downhill from there, really. World's Strongest Man 2018, he brought up a similar situation where Brian Shaw did a deadlift and he tried to get the result changed on the deadlift, sort of quarter way into the final. And again, it's just a bad attitude of when stuff's not going his way, he becomes this monster that has to stamp his feet. And I'll never forget this, Brian. At World's Strongest Man 2017, the very first discrepancy he brought up was the Viking press. So, up until this point, everyone was hunky-dory, everything was going smooth, and then Thor said it was disallowed a rep on the Viking press, and after I'd gone and beaten him on this event, he then brought up the discrepancy with the referees and the officials, and of course, they all reviewed the footage, they all happily reviewed the footage, and they all said, sorry Thor, we all agree, you should have got disallowed that one rep. Even Magnus Magnuson said he would have disallowed 4 of the reps. So he would have been way worse off. But I'll never forget the image in my head of Thor standing over the head referee, going purple-faced, clenching his fists, and literally saying to this head referee, is that your decision then? Is that your decision? Are you sure? You're making the decisions. Are you making the right one? And I just stood there and I thought, fuck me, this guy's an asshole. Like an absolute asshole. And it's progressed from there. It's got worse and worse with Thor.
I can only imagine the fact that you guys used to hang out together and he's been to your house. Like, this is going to be seriously personal. Before you get in that ring, this ain't going to be two competitors. This is bad blood. Like, I didn't realise it was that sort of bad. And I guess his rise to fame from Game of Thrones is that must have played a part in that. When you say the ego's growing and he's turning into this guy who can't be told what to do, do you think there's a correlation between that fame?
I'd like to say no, but I think it is. I think all that fame has gone to his head. I think he turns up at World's Strongest Man. Everyone turns up with a partner or a physio. Thor will turn up with 30 people in blue shirts, and they will take over the arena. We'll be in the athlete tent. And I remember one year I went to sit down in between events and there wasn't a single chair in the athlete tent because all Thor's family was sat in the chairs. And I thought, this is just fucking ridiculous. Like the entourage he takes around with him, he walks around with sunglasses on indoors. He's just got that very Hollywood sort of image about him that I hate. And I think all the other strongman hate as well. He's almost become too big time. He's above everybody else. He won't hang around with any of the other athletes in competition. He only hangs around with his clan. If you want to talk to Thor, you have to ask one of his clan. You can't go to him direct. It's genuinely ridiculous, like how bad he's got.
All right, so you're gonna fight this guy now, and I don't envy you, mate. And you've got fucking balls on you. There's no you talk about backing up your bullshit. That you are my fucking hero. I fucking respect you. But this is the thing. You're a beast in your own right, and he's gonna have his hands full as well. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be thinking the same thing walking in there with you. But do you have any fighting experience from this? We've seen you hit pads before.
Boxing wise, virtually zilch. I think I've done one charity match in my life against a reasonable boxer, and that is pretty much it. I've had one charity boxing match. I've done little bits of boxing training. I could probably honestly say, I would say in my entire life, I have done less than 50 boxing sessions, as in training sessions. That's the genuine truth. And in fighting, not proud of my past, but I was a very sort of Jack the Lad in my youth. I would love a good scrap. I would purposely go out of my way to get into a scrap. And I'm not proud of that. And I don't wish that to sort of be perceived as my personality. I'm not like that. But I did in my youth have a very bad hard man image. I did have that. I always thought and that's the way I was brought up. I was brought in my area. If you can knock that man out, if you can knock that kid out in the same year as you, or if you can knock that kid out in the other year at the other school, or if you can knock that kid out the year above you, then you were seen as the hard man. You were respected in my area. Where I'm from, we don't deal with things with words. Straight away, it's fists up. Let's sort this out like men. And that's how I've been brought up. And I suppose, I mean, having two brothers as well, two elder brothers, and I can tell you now, and they can back me up on this, they beat the living shit out of me on a daily basis. On a daily basis. I was beaten black and blue, broke my nose, scars all over me. So I'm not no sort of stranger to fighting. And then sort of when I was sort of coming out of this hard man image period, I set up my own door company, and I ran the security in Stoke-on-Trent, quite a lot of security. And by Jesus Christ, did I get in some trouble during that period, and I've got the scars to prove it. But in my opinion, fighting on the street doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. What does that prove? If anything, it just proves you're a bit of an idiot, if I'm being honest. And I was a bit of an idiot, happy to admit that. To then transfer that into a boxing ring, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The only sort of thing I will say is I can take a hit and I can give a hit. But will that transfer over to boxing? Probably yes. But I will have to forget all my fights I've had for my entire life, all those little scraps, all those little, beat me ups in the nightclubs and on the street. That all goes out the window, because boxing's a different game. Boxing is a game of skill. And this is where it excites me, really, it's a whole new thing to learn. And I'm quite looking forward to, getting in touch with coaches and start learning the footwork and the ducking and diving and whatever else. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm glad I'm going to enjoy it, because it's I think we don't know when this fight's going to happen, but it's going to be over a year, I'd say, at least, because I would want 12 months to train for this fight. I'm looking forward to it, Brian. I know that seems daft to say, mate, and as big and nasty as Thor is, as you say, you'd have to be an idiot getting in the ring with Thor. I'm not an idiot, mate. I'm just a guy that's got a grudge, and I need to fucking settle it with this guy. I need to fucking have a man-to-man with this man and fucking sort it out.
From the second you taught me about that you were having this fight, I've picked up this confidence from you. You've just got this inner belief, not just about yourself, but also about him. I feel like you know when it comes down to it, he'll break before you do. Am I wrong there, or am I on the right lines?
No, I think you're 100% there. I just think I've got the mental sort of approach, a much better mental approach than him. I'm going to outwit him mentally, and I'm going to outwit him physically as well. The thing is with me, Brian, is if I'm confident, then you're fucked. You are fucked. If I'm confident in my head, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you, then you should fucking run. Because that's what I did with World's Strongest Man. I'll never forget World's Strongest Man 2017. I was the most confident man on the planet. You can look on the interviews. I was doing these interviews saying I've already spent the prize money, I've already walked away with the title, and the people behind the camera are like, this guy's fucking off his head. But I just had that confidence, and I know, why I had that confidence? Because I gave it every fucking ounce of my life into training. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with this fight. I'm going to leave no stone unturned. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I go in that ring and fucking ridicule this prick. There's
one thing about you, the more I've gotten to know you over the years and stuff, is I do think Thor, like you say, is a very gifted athlete, and it's almost been handed to him. Whereas I feel like you've had to work a lot harder. I think that would be fair to say than he has. And if there's one thing that blew me away in the first podcast that we did, I came away saying, this guy is the most determined person I've ever met in my entire life. And I've interviewed many world champions and met fighters and all sorts, you know what I mean? But that determination you have is going to carry you through this. But if you were to sort of analyse Thor a little bit early on now, and you've spent plenty of time with him, is there any weaknesses that you think he has that you'll be looking to exploit?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer, because Thor has got to be a sort of solid athlete. He's got to have that mental attitude, or else he wouldn't be World's Strongest Man. But as you rightly say, he is almost a God's gift with the genetics in that reign. He's literally been handed the best genetics on the planet to be the World's Strongest Man and to lift the most weights. And I haven't got that. I have not got that. But what I have got is that mental approach of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big you are, how hard you are, how strong you are. I know if I put my mind to it, I will beat you. And that's all that matters to me.
There's going to be a lot of people saying he is going to warp this. I can already see in the tweets and all of that, the guy's 6'9", and in boxing, you'd have to say he is more built for it in theory than you in terms of he's going to have a massive reach advantage. People are saying already, if he gets the jab off, that's it. Eddie will not get past that. What do you say to those people?
There's been many a fight in history where the small man has won, and I feel as though just having a height advantage, it won't be enough to keep me away. I mean, look at Mike Tyson. That guy has destroyed so many people that were bigger and stronger than him. He's living proof that if you get your head down and train right, that you can do anything. And I'm a big believer in that concept. I don't know how I'm going to attack this fight yet. I'm not going to give you sort of analysis of how I'm going to train for this or how I think it's going to go. But you're right, Thor has got the reach, he's got the height, and he's probably going to be taught to stand tall and keep me off with a jab. But you know what? We'll work around that. I think it's my job to sort of go away, think of all attack methods, all defense methods, and come in with no stone unturned. And to basically, no matter what he does in the ring, I will have a response for that.
I do feel, because obviously this is very different to the YouTube fights, but I think a lot of people are going to be almost looking at it in a way of non-boxers taking up boxing. They'll group it in the same. Clearly, this is different because you and Thor are two of the world's best athletes, but you're great strength athletes, and boxing is very different to that. And we've seen criticism already on Twitter saying these guys are going to gas out in 2 rounds. It's going to be a terrible fight. It's going to be awful. I want to put that to you as well, mate. Like, how do you feel about people saying that?
I've got no worries about that. You know, as long as I've got a good amount of time to train for this, I'll make sure I'm fit. I'm already a fit guy. I can swim and run and cycle and whatever else for a lot longer period than people think. And, you know, I've done my boxing training. I've done little bits. And trust me, like, I won't gas. I will not gas. I will train hard enough. I'll be prepared for this to go the 3-minute rounds and even go the 12. How many rounds is it in boxing? Is it 12 or 14?
People are going to clip that up and post that on Twitter. I'll tell you right now. How many rounds is it in boxing? First conversation from Eddie Hall. Jesus, I love it. No, it is. Well, I very much doubt you guys would be asked to go 12 threes with it being your first. It's a pro fight, I'm assuming. No head guards.
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn will be loving that. I guess, you know, the YouTube guys did 6 threes and they fought hard, you know, like the boys went at it. You know, you're going to have to transform your body, and I'm sure you're already well aware of that. You were a former, you know, champion swimmer, so the gas tank has been there before, and I'm sure you can get that there again. I'm assuming you're planning on shedding the weight even more than you already have.
Yeah, I've got no clue as to what I'm going to... You know, this is completely new to me. You know, we would have been talking about this for a week or so. It's completely new to me. I don't know what body weight I'm going to come in at. I really don't. I don't know. I need to go away, analyse everything, sort of think of an attack and stick with a plan, basically. Yeah. I mean, of course, you know, at the minute I'm 170 kilos, so I'm about, top of my head, that's like 27 and a bit stone. And I think to walk in the ring at this weight would be a big mistake. You know, I've got to drop a load of body weight so I can go those 3-minute rounds. You know, I actually put something into it. The other big thing is what is Thor going to do? Because if he comes in at over 400 pounds, I think that would be a big mistake as well. But, you know, people could argue maybe he could finish it within 30 seconds, a minute. You know, I think this is it's exciting me, thinking about all these...
Mate, this is like superheroes going at it. I think that a few people who are writing it off, I'm like, you guys do not understand. Like, people get excited for Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. You two make those guys look like children. Like, this is going to be insane. You know what I mean? If there's one thing I've learned from the YouTube lads who I've sat and watched, and we've had all these chats, they've gone in there and learnt it from scratch like yourself. It's the ones who surround themselves with the most knowledgeable boxing people are the ones who usually win. You know, the ones who are getting the best training from people who understand boxing and dedicate themselves 110% and don't take time off and don't chance it. Like, you won't, I know, but as a mate, I think it's imperative that you find the right people to learn from. Like,
yeah, and I think that's going to be Thor's approach as well. You know, he's a professional. He's been a professional in his A game, the same as me. So I think both of us are going to go into this with that same mentality. We're going to leave no stone unturned. We're going to sort out the best people. We're going to be doing the best recovery methods. You know, we're going to get the best of everything. So there's going to be, I can always guarantee Thor is going to go as hard as this as he did at World's Strongest Man in the 501 attempt. He's going to be gunning for this because, you know what? He's got a lot more to lose than I have. He genuinely has. You know, the guy's 6'9". He's a huge man. To get beat up by a 6'2.5" guy, and I don't think he'd ever live that down. So he's going to be training just as hard as this as I am.
Weirdly, for once, you're David, not Goliath here, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like there is going to be pressure on this guy, isn't there? And the entourage and all of that and the Hollywood thing is up for grabs there. But the difference with this is, you know, the loser doesn't get a silver medal and stands a little bit below each other on a podium. He's on the floor potentially. And I think with how big you guys are, it stands to reason that one of you is getting chinned. Have you sort of played around with that possibility in your head and, you know, thought, God, can I handle this as a man? Because many can't, ego-wise.
You know what? I haven't even thought about losing, Brian. It's not in my mentality to think about coming second or being that guy laying on the floor. I've come in with a plan A, and that's what I'm sticking with. If the worst were to happen and I were to get laid out, then you know what, mate? It's like I did with World's Strongest Man. I went against the odds, and eventually I came out on top. So, and this is exactly what I'll do with this. If, and it's a big if, I do go in and I get floored, there will be a rematch. I'm telling you now. And if he gets floored, there will be a rematch, because I don't think we can settle this with one fight. There's going to be a few.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking there, because you know, that gives you guys both an opportunity to put things right, make the alterations that you'd want to make. And they did the same thing with the lads KSI and Logan Paul. And ultimately, it'd be great for you two to make a fuck ton of money. The possible damages, I know you're no fucking stranger to being, you know, in danger because of the shit that 500 kilograms was terrifying enough. Your family, you know, for example, how everyone's seeing how close you are with your wife. How is she taking the fact that you're going to go and fight this guy? Is everyone else okay with it?
No, they hate it. They absolutely hate it. But that's life, you know. My wife wants me to stay at home and be safe and look after her and, you know, be the breadwinner. And that's what all wives want. Nobody's wife wants the husband to go out there and risk the life for a bit of cash, you know. And I guess that for me, if that were the case, I would say, yeah, you know what, babe, you're right. I'm not going to do it. This is a big mistake. But this is more than just money. This is personal. This is me settling a score with an old enemy that needs settling. And my family have got to accept that. My mum and dad are getting really upset about it. My wife's getting upset about it. I don't know what the rest of my family and friends think, but no one will change my mind. And they know that. So, and they know, like I did for the World's Strongest Man, I was getting close to death chasing that World's Strongest Man title. I had a few health scares, and I was told by a lot of family members to back off and, you know, live a long life. It's not worth your life. But no one could stop me, Brian. I wanted that title more than anything, and I was willing to risk my life for it. And I feel like the same was this, really, is no one's going to tell me any different. I'm willing to risk my life to prove a point.
You know, I respect that this is... It's a good old-fashioned straightener in many respects. But one thing that you did say to me after the World's Strongest Man win was, that's it. No more competing. No more. That's it. I'm going to be a good family man. Yeah. And 3 years later, you're like, I'm fighting Thor, you bastards. I'm like, fucking hell, mate. Are you missing that training and that competitive edge? Because you know that the animal's inside. You know what I mean? You got to let it out, I guess.
100% I am, mate. 100% I am. I'm just glad. I'm so glad I walked away from Strongman. People have given me no end of shit saying I'm scared to lose my title. I'm scared to return. I'm not scared. My plan A was to win the World's Strongest Man and get out. That's always been my plan, and I stuck to it. I was 433 pounds when I won the World's Strongest Man. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
Jesus.
For my height, I was the biggest man on the fucking planet that day. The biggest man. And if you put that in the stats, I was the most at risk to have a heart attack, the most at risk to have a stroke, liver, kidney failure. If there's a table, I was fucking in the sky. I was well above and beyond. So that's why I had to walk away from Strongman, because I am not 6'9". I am not a natural giant. I cannot be 450 pounds somewhat naturally. You know, I can't hold that weight as well as Thor can. So that's my reason for walking away. So yes, you are completely right. For this excuse to sort of get back in the training world and get my head down and get my eye back on the ball, so to say, I'm fucking thriving, Brian. I cannot wait to get going with this training, because that's what I'm used to, mate. That's my outlet. I've always suffered with depression, mental health, and training has always been my outlet. It still is now. That's why I'm so big and strong now. I'm not as big and strong as I was, but it's my way of keeping straight and narrow. It's my way of keeping the demons away. And I think this fight with Thor is going to seal those demons up. Definitely. It's going to help. It's going to help my life in more ways than one.
Yeah, mate. When you say it like that, I can't disagree with your reasons behind it. And for those who did say you were scared, like, I think you've proved that you're not scared, because this boxing match is, would scare a lot more people than picking a weight up in a competition. You know what I mean? You ask every man on the planet, do you want to step in the ring with Thor for £1 million? I mean, some idiots might say yes, but I think the majority would just fold and be like, no, it's not worth my life. Yeah, and not after that 501 kilogram deadlift, especially. Like, one thing I'd like to get on is your weight loss, because obviously this is going to continue now. And I remember after World's Strongest Man, you said, I'm going to shred up. I'm going to show people, like, I'm not just this. Because they were having to go to you online, the big fat guy comments and all of that. Then, just as you said you would, you turn around, you've got abs, and you're doing cardio and stuff like that. I've wanted to know this. How did you make that happen?
You're completely right, mate. It was more of a point of proving I could. You know, my whole career, pretty much, I've been called a fat bastard, which it's not bothered me when I was in competition. But as soon as I won the World's Strongest Man, I was like, you know what? There's some horrible people out there that love to body shame, and everyone said I was this big, massive, fat, Sopheric bastard. But I knew I was a big ball of muscle. You know, it was functional. I had a huge belly, but I'm telling you now, you couldn't pinch an ounce of fat on my stomach. It was solid. And I suppose I just wanted to prove a point, to strip up and prove that I wasn't this, grotesque sort of fat mess winning the World's Strongest Man. There was an athlete, a good-looking bloke underneath, and I've done that. I've proved it, and I proved it can be done. And now, you know what? I've put a bit of weight back on. I've been very up and down. I've been part of a TV show, The Strongest Man in History, so I had to put weight back on for that show to sort of keep up with the other boys. But in all honesty with you, Brian, I enjoy being big and strong. I enjoy being a big guy. I don't give a fuck if people call me a fat bastard. You know what? I'm happy with my life. I've got a great life. I've got an amazing wife and kids. A nice place to live. No worries. I'm happy. So for people to body shame, like, you get on with your lives. I'm not really bothered, but I proved it can be done.
Yeah, I'm assuming you went on a diet for that. Was there anything special that you did, like that people? Oh,
sorry, I completely deferred the question. Kind of. I basically cut carbs out for a good year. I just ate nothing but meat and sort of dairy and vegetables for a complete year. Did lots of cardio, carried on with my weight training, and the weight fell off me. I think, bear in mind, I was 433 pounds in my prime. The sort of most recent where I did a transformation, I dropped down to 350 pounds. So I lost 80 pounds, is that? 83 pounds?
Yeah.
In a couple of years. It was hard.
For those who don't know, that's like over 5 stone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight. That's nearly a person lost,
Your body's going to change a lot now, because obviously boxing is just so different. Everything you're going to be doing, you're going to look softer, as they say in bodybuilding. You're probably going to look more like a big rugby player by the time you get in there, I would imagine.
Yeah, look at Andy Ruiz. He got, he got absolutely blasted when he beat AJ. But and then he became the poster boy for fucking Snickers.
I was gutted when he got back in there, because I had money on him to win that night. Even though I wanted AJ to win, I had money on him, and I was like, mate, you're just too fat now. This is taking the piss here. Like, how many Snickers have you had? When I'm in better shape than the heavyweight champ of the world, we know he's fucked. Do you know what I mean? But One thing I wanted to ask you about, well, before you go, because I know you haven't got long, mate. You're a businessman now. You've really changed the game for strongmen, and this whole thing is now you're leveling it up again. Where is this going for you? Where's the empire that you're building headed? Because I've been fascinated by what the moves you've made.
I mean, my plan from day one was to win the World's Strongest Man and then capitalise on the back of that, which I've been doing. You know, I'm riding that wave hard. I've had 2 very successful TV shows. One of them, I was meant to be filming season 2 right now, but obviously it's been postponed. I've set up many little businesses, a couple in Stoke. I've set some international ones up. I think one of the main things is getting into the sort of movie side of things, doing a lot of wheeling and dealing with directors and producers and doing some good deals. The second documentary's in the making in conjunction with Arnold Schwarzenegger, so that's a big production. And then I think the final and most impressive thing is, for me, and it's such like, I can smile from ear to ear saying this, I am business partners with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I am bringing the Arnold Classic UK to the United Kingdom for everyone to come and meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you know, to say those words from a childhood hero to being a 5-year-old kid sitting there with my jaw on the floor watching the Terminator kick the shit out of 20 outlaws and, you know, butt naked, and then ride off on a new motorbike, to now being a business partner of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's honestly, Brian, like, I have to pinch myself sometimes, mate, because
that's mental.
It is surreal, and there's a lot more to come, mate. There's a lot more big deals to be done, and yeah, you know, I take great pride in riding that wave on the back of World's Strongest Man. And I will say this, and I think this goes for every World's Strongest Man, including Thor, is that you've got to be somewhat clever. You know, you've got to have your wits about you. You've got to have a good grasp on life. You've got to have a good grasp on business. And if you haven't, then you're going to be one of those guys that wins the World's Strongest Man and then goes back to a normal job. And there's been plenty of those guys. And you know, I'm not going to be one of those people.
Now, you said that on the first documentary about you. You know, you don't want to be that guy who could have won World's Strongest Man but didn't have the bottle to quit his job. And you're like, I'm going for it. And it's fantastic to see 5 years later how it's going for you. And while we're on it, do you think you could get Arnold Schwarzenegger on the True Geordie podcast by any chance?
Oh, you know what, mate? I will
put a word in.
Fucking hell. I will talk to you behind the scenes. I will do something for you, yes.
All right, legend. I couldn't help it. I couldn't resist that.
Oh, that's fine, man. No, I'd be exactly the same. He's a legend, isn't he? Absolute legend.
Mate, he's a legend, man. I remember Terminator 2 and just thinking, I don't know, I'm all in on this. Like, I had the action figures, everything.
yes.
So lastly, lockdown, you're living like we all are, and can't leave the house, all this bullshit. How are you coping mentally? Because you're an outdoorsy kind of guy.
It was tough at first. I think the first... well, let's rewind a little bit. I was out in Australia when all this kicked off. So I was out there with my dad and brother doing a little tour of Sydney and Melbourne. And it all kicked off and we had to get emergency flights back to the UK. And literally, I think 3 days after I arrived back, the UK went into lockdown. And it was tough, man. I think everybody in the country was literally head in hands like, what the fuck is going on here? It was really hard to sort of get acclimatized with being in the house 24/7. You know, me and the wife had some horrendous fallouts. And I mean, bad.
Biblical.
I just very quickly realised that I need to get into a regime. So straight away, within a week, I've got my whiteboard out. I'm writing out sort of strength programs and whatever else. And honestly, Brian, every single day I have trained for pretty much 3 to 4 to 5 hours, pretty much. I've had my rest days, but just the regime, just keeping busy, doing my training every day, and then as soon as I've done my training, I'm on my emails. I'm doing presenting work for TV channels and other YouTube channels and stuff like that. And people think it's hilarious, really. People think I'm just sat on my hands with nothing to do. You know, I'm getting so many, and I think you're the same. You're getting so many requests from people thinking you're doing fuck all. It's quite hilarious, actually. Whereas, actual fact, honestly, I feel now busier than I was when we weren't locked down. It's nuts.
Mate, actually the same. Like, I've never had this much work in my life coming my way, you know?
Yeah.
Mad. Honestly, mate, I'll let you go now, but I just want to wish you the best of luck for everything. I'm fully confident in you because I know what's up in your head. I know you're going to make sure that you get everything done, so when you go in that ring, it's on then. You're going to smash them to bits.
It's on.
Right.
And Thor, this is a message for Thor. Just want to say, mate, well, actually, you're not my mate. You're a prick. You started this. You know, you generally started this. World's Strongest Man 2017. You called me a cheat. Forget the deadlift. Forget our feud. You called me a cheat. And I'm going to correct that by knocking you the fuck out.
I fucking love it. I fucking love it. Oh my God. This world's colliding here. This is going to be amazing. If everyone hasn't already, you can subscribe to Eddie's YouTube channel. He's just hit 1 million subscribers. He's absolutely killing it on that channel right now. And hit the like button. Stay subscribed to the True Geordie YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you later.